Ladies and gentlemen, start your systems.
Alright boys, had to come in here and do a little video on the Daytona track here in Supercross 4. We're going to be checking out all the different weather condition modes on it here, just taking a look at it. It's my first time ever riding on the track. We got to go Eli Tomac, we just got to do it, dog. 5-time Daytona champion. You know, Carmichael's probably a little salty about that deep down, even though he doesn't want to admit it. Let's just keep it real right now, dog. Okay? Let's just put it this way. I think Carmichael probably thought when he got that record, nobody was ever going to beat that record. Let's just keep it real right now, right? Let's just keep it real. Okay. So these Daytona tracks are always pretty cool in the Supercross games. I had a feeling I was going to overjump that. Okay. They're always kind of cool because it's like the one more so motocrossy style track in the entire game. You know, if you don't really get a motocross track in the compound, this is like your only real motocross track in the whole caboodle right here, you know? So it's definitely makes it special in that sense. That triple's definitely bigger than the finish line, no doubt about it. They have certainly got their whoops amped up. They really got this track feeling like sand. That's kind of cool. You know, a lot of times, okay, triple. I got a lot of this track looking like sand here. I love being able to go in here and time attack and race on these tracks, like day versions of every track in this game, minus the in-stadium tracks, obviously. Very, very cool that you can do that in these games. Okay, some big Hossin speed going down through there. Oh, Spencer. This is literally my first lap ever on this, so, you know, don't try to say, Spencer, why don't you get better at the game, dude? Dude, I'm a pro at an arcade motocross game. Spencer, you suck, dude. You're terrible at motocross games. Right? Like, the first time, literally, I've got like, I don't know, 2 hours into this game total, and this is my first time ever on this track right here. Let's get that ghost off, just so we keep it kind of clean on the track. And of course, you would imagine that the track gets very, very narrow right there. I do notice that section right there gets super narrow, like way more narrow than any other part of the track. And then right here, this gets narrow as shit. That's almost like what would be the same width of a split lane part of a track. Nice length on that triple right there, though. You got to be on the beans on the 4 fatty to be able to hit that. Big old berms, boys. I like that a lot. Not too hard to hit that triple. You probably can quad that, I would imagine. Can you do a little trick line right here? Oh, shit. Well, yeah, my MX Simulator Pro Racing days coming into play right there. There's always a little trick line somewhere on these Daytona tracks like that. I don't know if you'd get docked some positions in a pro race in this game for doing that. I would imagine so. I would have to imagine so. You pretty much skip that whole corner right there. They probably should have brought those tough blocks a little further to where you just couldn't do that. You know, milestone, if you have me testing your games, that's something I would have found. Literally, this is my first time riding on this track, and I would have found that on this track, just saying. So, really cool infield section, though. You will definitely, let me just sky this thing out one time. Let's just do it one time. No pop-off on the bike. Okay, so they've definitely toned down the popping off for sure. I mean, you probably would have popped off right there on Supercross 2 or like MXGP Pro. You probably would have popped off hitting a jump of that, flat landing a jump of that size specifically. You just probably would have. They still don't quite have the whoops to a beefy enough point to where you're really going to wreck on those or have to lean a certain way to keep yourself together on those. Oh, man, that quad is going to be a huck fatty. That is going to be... See, right here, what they should have done was... And they could still do this in an update. You know, here I am giving you free, testing the bugs of your game here, Milestone. Put another Honda Tough Block. All you need is one more right here, and that will prevent this little trick line right here. That trick line is so good, like, everybody is going to hit that shit. Everybody's going to hit that shit in an online race or anything. Let's go to a different weather effect of this real quick. I think we got to actually exit this completely, but yeah, so I hope you guys are enjoying some of these Supercross 4 videos here. You know, if you're new to my channel, be sure you got that notification bell turned on, because I'm going to be uploading a lot more on this game over the next few weeks. There's just so much more to cover, it seems like, in these Supercross games than a lot of times with those newer MXGP games, right? So we got rainy. Let's try the wet track, which is awesome that they brought this back. You didn't even have this weather mode in MXGP 2020. They took it out of that game. So I'll show you what I'm talking about here. It's basically like being able to ride on the track without actually having rain falling, but it's, you know, wet on the ground itself. So that's a really cool way to experience it. A lot of times it's not even dark like this. I know in some previous milestone games when you have just the wet track, I think it was Supercross 2 or 3, you could go in there and have it set on wet track and go in there and time attack like this, and it would be like literal middle of the day, daytime, but a wet track. You know, it wasn't like overcast, cloudy like this. It was like, you know, sunny, but a wet track on it, right? So I don't know if you're going to have that on some of the wet track modes and on some of the tracks. That might actually be the case. I'm not 100 on that, right? But still looks really cool here. No doubt about that. Get a little bit more of a slide effect. I'm going to make that triple a little harder to hit. You have to be like wide open when it's in the mud mode instead of like 80% throttle, right? So let's see here. I still ain't quite figured out my shit here. I don't know if I need to jump on the table, off the table, over the table, under the table. that kind of worked out a little bit. That little wordplay worked out a little bit there. Cool right here. You can get a lot of speed going into that corner. That's cool. That feels kind of skill gappy right there, right? Then you got that's kind of a huck in the mud, doing the inside to that little table area. This track would be a lot of fun in some multiplayer. Getting like, you know, shitload of dudes on this at once. That'd be pretty fun. There's not a whole lot of roughness on this track. I will say that about it. There is not a whole lot of roughness. Pre-made roughness, you know. I was kind of, to be completely honest with you, I was kind of expecting a little more of that. Like they should have had some more roughness braking bumps going into this corner right here at least. But there is just not a whole lot of that, man. A lot of different sand sections here. But yeah. So I would assume these sand sections are probably going to rut up quite a bit, especially if you have quite a few people on them, terrain deformation wise. I would definitely assume that. Man, it gets a little tough when you start cutting that puppy way on the inside there. But yeah, I can't remember exactly. I think it's Supercross 2. It could be Supercross 3. It could be both of them. I can't remember exactly. But yeah, you can still hook that triple right there. That's cool. Makes that section a lot more skill gappy in the mud. But we'll actually hit this corner normally now, if I can even turn sharp enough. Holy nuts. Oh my God. Yeah, this is nowhere near as complicated of rhythm sections and stuff that you would have had on the Supercross 3's Daytona track. This is a lot more simplistic, simple rhythms, you know. Oh my God. Let me jack myself real quick. Okay. But not a terrible Daytona track. I do kind of wish... I think it just looks better when they have the wet track modes like daytime, like not overcast like it would have been in the rain mode, but yet it's still a wet track, so you kind of get that, like, you know, sunny but wet on the track, like they just watered the track. That was kind of a cool aspect to the wet track mode in some of the previous milestone games was... And I don't mean the rain mode, I mean the wet track mode specifically. You could come in here and time attack, and it would be like sun shining, but it would be wet track, so it just really gave you that kind of cool vibe like you were riding on overly watered practice version of the track or something cool like that. I am sliding a little bit in this wet sand. Like, look at that right there. It's definitely creating more of a slide than it would on some of the standard dirt tracks. That's for sure. That is definitely one thing I'm noticing about this. But either way, that's pretty much a Daytona here, dudes. Looks pretty good. At least they do have this rhythm right down through here. That's a relief. Kind of hard to get that second triple because it kills so much your momentum when you land off of the first triple. But yeah, I'd like to see this little cut line fixed in a update for sure. This track definitely could add a little more roughness, maybe a little bit more on the pre-made rut side. Definitely, for sure, 100% could have had that, no doubt about it. And it's kind of a short Daytona track. Any of you guys notice that? It's like pretty short. Feels like you're like going through the laps really quick. Like this whole section right here is just a totally flat section, so it's not even really much of a section. Then you have this whole section that's perfectly flat coming around the start area, right? So there is a lot of kind of flat tracking vibe feeling to this track. Not necessarily flat tracking in the corners, you know, they have big berms in the corners, but like right here it goes back to perfectly flat. You know, there's a lot of that like kind of perfectly flat type feeling to this track. They definitely could have done a little more with the pre-made roughness and just like natural little divots and shit in the dirt. They could have done a little more with that here for sure. But either way, appreciate you guys watching all the videos. Later, dudes.